There are wounds that time doesn't heal. They simply become quieter. You learn how to smile around them. You build a life despite them. But every now and then, someone from your past walks back into your life and reminds you exactly where those scars came from. This is one of those stories. If you've ever been underestimated by the very people who were supposed to believe in you, stay with me. By the end, you might see your own story a little differently. When Olivia Okoro was 12 years old, she stopped telling people what she wanted to become, not because she had stopped dreaming, because every time she spoke her dream aloud, someone laughed. Usually that someone was sitting at the family dinner table. Her father, Samuel Okoro, believed success belonged to realistic people. Her mother, Grace, believed daughters should find stable jobs, marry respectable men, and avoid taking unnecessary risks. Olivia wanted none of that. She wanted to build companies. She collected old business magazines from recycling bins, read biographies of entrepreneurs by flashlight after everyone slept, and wrote imaginary business plans in worn-out notebooks she hid beneath her mattress. Her father once discovered one of those notebooks. Instead of reading it, he tossed it into the charcoal stove. "You think dreams pay electricity bills?" he asked. The pages curled into ash while 12-year-old Olivia stood frozen. She never forgot the smell. Years later, she would remember that moment more vividly than birthdays or holidays. Because sometimes failure isn't your first heartbreak. Being laughed at is. Their modest home stood on a crowded street, where everyone knew everyone else's business. Neighbors often sat outside in the evenings discussing politics, football, rising food prices, and whose children were making something of themselves. Whenever Olivia passed carrying another stack of library books, someone had something to say. "Still reading? Books don't make people rich. Your brother is learning real work." Her older brother, Daniel, apprenticed as an auto mechanic. Her younger sister, Ada, learned tailoring. Only Olivia seemed determined to chase something invisible. Even relatives joined in. At family gatherings, an uncle would ask, "So, have you become the president yet?" Everyone laughed. Olivia learned to laugh too. Sometimes pretending something doesn't hurt is easier than explaining why it does. Her grandmother was the only person who saw something different. Mama Nosy never mocked the notebooks. Instead, she'd quietly hand Olivia old newspapers and say, "The people who change the world usually look foolish right before they succeed." She wasn't wealthy. She couldn't pay school fees, but she could offer belief. And sometimes belief is worth more than money. Before she passed away, she pressed a tiny brass key into Olivia's hand. "It doesn't open a door," she whispered. "It opens a promise. Never become the person who forgets how it feels to be ignored." Olivia kept that key on her keychain for the next 25 years. Life became harder after secondary school. University wasn't guaranteed. Her father refused to pay. "I've invested enough in fantasies." Instead, Olivia sold snacks after school, tutored younger students, cleaned offices during weekends, and applied for every scholarship she could find. She received rejection after rejection, until one rainy Tuesday afternoon, an email arrived. She had earned a full scholarship to study business administration. She stared at the screen for nearly 5 minutes before believing it. When she told her parents, there was no celebration. Her father barely looked up from the television. "Scholarships don't make CEOs." That sentence followed her for years. University was nothing like she imagined. Many classmates came from wealthy families. They wore expensive watches, owned laptops worth more than everything inside Olivia's bedroom. They spoke confidently about companies their parents owned. Olivia arrived with 2 suitcases, 3 outfits, 1 borrowed laptop, and enough determination to frighten people who underestimated her. She became known for asking difficult questions. Professors noticed. So did classmates. One lecturer, Professor Ahmed, once stopped her after class. "Miss Okoro, you don't think like a student. You think like someone already running a company." No one had ever spoken to her like that. She walked home smiling all evening. But confidence doesn't erase loneliness. During holidays, everyone returned to families eager to hear about university life. Olivia returned to parents who asked only one question: "When are you getting a proper job?" Her achievements meant little because they weren't visible. No expensive car, no designer clothes, no large salary. Just another semester, another internship, another dream. She stopped expecting encouragement. It hurt less that way. After graduation, finding work proved harder than earning the degree. Interview after interview ended with polite emails. "We've decided to pursue other candidates." Savings disappeared. Rent became difficult. There were mornings she skipped breakfast, so transportation. Money would last another day. She never told her parents. She already knew what they'd say. "We warned you." Instead, She kept applying, kept learning, kept believing. Then something unexpected happened. A small logistics company hired her as a junior operations analyst. The office had peeling paint, old computers, broken air conditioning. Nobody glamorous worked there, but Olivia treated every assignment like she had been handed a multinational corporation. She arrived before everyone else, left after sunset, asked questions, solved problems nobody wanted. Within 18 months, she was supervising teams twice her age. Not because she demanded authority, because she earned trust. One afternoon, a major client visited unexpectedly. Their shipment tracking system had completely failed. Managers panicked. Executives argued. Everyone blamed someone else. Olivia quietly disappeared into a meeting room with 2 programmers. 6 hours later, the system was working again. The client renewed a multi-million naira contract. The company's owner called her into his office. "You know," he said with a smile, "people think leadership is about speaking first. You've shown me it's about solving the problem nobody else wants." Those words changed everything. Promotions came quickly, so did offers from larger firms. Eventually, an international investment group noticed her work. Their headquarters overlooked the city skyline. Glass walls, modern conference rooms, global clients. The kind of place Olivia used to imagine while reading magazines under her blanket as a child. She accepted the offer, then worked even harder, because she knew opportunities don't stay open forever. 7 years later, employees across Africa knew her name. Not because she sought attention, because every struggling division assigned to her somehow became profitable. She never humiliated staff, never shouted, never claimed someone else's ideas. She simply listened, noticed what everyone ignored, and quietly fixed impossible situations. When the previous CEO announced retirement, the board voted unanimously. Olivia Okoro, Chief Executive Officer, age 37, the youngest CEO in the company's history. She accepted the appointment, wearing the same tiny brass key her grandmother had given her decades earlier. No cameras noticed it. She preferred it that way. Her office occupied the top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Employees joked that she could probably see tomorrow from up there. But Olivia's favorite object wasn't the expensive desk, or the awards lining the shelves. It was a small frame notebook page, the only surviving page from the childhood notebook her father had burned. Someone, her grandmother, had secretly rescued it from the fire years before. The page contained one sentence. "One day I'll build something nobody can burn." Every morning, before checking emails, she read that sentence, not to remember the pain, to remember the promise. Meanwhile, back in her parents' neighborhood, life had changed. Not for the better. Samuel had retired earlier than expected after health problems. Grace's tailoring customers had disappeared as cheaper factories took over. Bills accumulated. Medical expenses mounted. Daniel's garage struggled after a highway expansion, forced many small businesses to relocate. The family began borrowing money, selling furniture, avoiding phone calls from creditors. Still, none of them knew exactly who Olivia had become. She sent gifts through relatives, paid hospital bills anonymously whenever she heard someone was sick, never attached her name, never expected gratitude. She simply remembered her grandmother's words. Don't become the person who forgets. Then one Monday morning, Samuel received a call. An investor had offered to buy the remaining family property for a suspiciously low amount. Refusing could mean losing everything anyway because of mounting debts. Accepting meant surrendering the only inheritance left. Someone suggested one last option. "There is a new CEO in the city," the family friend said. "They're known for rescuing struggling companies. If anyone can help, it's her." Samuel sighed, as if someone like that would even meet ordinary people. The appointment was somehow approved. No one questioned it. They were simply told to arrive Tuesday morning at 10. Tuesday came. Grace wore her best beige suit. Samuel borrowed a navy blazer that no longer fit quite right. They rehearsed what to say inside the taxi. Should they ask for a loan? A partnership? Advice? Anything. Anything that could save the family from complete collapse. Neither of them imagined that the woman, waiting behind the CEO's desk, already knew exactly who they were, because Olivia had seen their names on the appointment schedule the previous evening. She hadn't slept all night. Not from anger, not from excitement, but because after 25 years, the people who had convinced her she'd never amount to anything were about to walk into the office she had built. She had one question echoing through her mind. Would they recognize their daughter? Before she chose whether to reveal herself, Samuel adjusted the borrowed, Jack it one last time before the receptionist smiled politely. The CEO will see you now. His palms were damp. Grace clutched her handbag tightly enough for her knuckles to whiten. Neither of them noticed the company logo engraved into the polished marble floor as they followed the assistant through the hallway. Every office they passed spoke of quiet success, employees moving with purpose, screens filled with financial reports, conference rooms buzzing with strategy instead of panic. This place must be worth billions, Grace whispered. Samuel nodded silently. He had spent decades believing wealthy executives were born into privilege. He had never imagined one of them could have started with less than he had. The assistant stopped before two towering wooden doors. She smiled. Please go right in. The doors swung open. Behind an elegant walnut desk sat a woman in a tailored black suit, reviewing a stack of documents. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her, outlining the city skyline. Without looking up, she said calmly, "Please, have a seat." Her voice sounded strangely familiar. Samuel frowned. Grace glanced at her husband. The CEO closed the file, folded her hands, and slowly lifted her eyes. For several seconds, no one spoke. Samuel's face drained of color. Grace's mouth fell open. "Olivia?" The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument they had ever had. "Good morning," Olivia said gently. "It's been a long time." Grace instinctively took a step forward. "My daughter," Olivia raised a hand, not in anger, but to slow the moment. "Today I'm here as CEO of Okoro Group. Let's begin with why you've requested this meeting." Samuel lowered himself into the chair as though his legs no longer trusted him. Everything in the office suddenly looked different. The family photographs, the awards, the nameplate that read, Olivia Okoro, Chief Executive Officer. The daughter, he had once called unrealistic, now led one of the fastest-growing companies in the region. Samuel began, then stopped. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to say. Olivia slid a folder across the desk. "I already know about your financial situation." Both parents stared at her in surprise. "You know? I've known for months." Grace looked confused. "But how?" Olivia met her mother's eyes. "Because someone has been paying Dad's hospital bills." Grace gasped. "It was you?" Olivia nodded once. "I never wanted recognition. I only wanted you to get the treatment he needed." Tears welled in Grace's eyes. "Why would you do that after the way we treated you?" Olivia looked toward the skyline before answering. "My grandmother once told me that kindness is most valuable when it's hardest to give." Samuel covered his face with trembling hands. "I burned your notebook," he whispered. "I laughed at your dreams. I convinced myself I was protecting you from disappointment. But all I really did was become your first obstacle." Olivia remained quiet. "I've replayed those moments in my mind more times than I can count." Samuel continued. "If I could take them back." "You can't," Olivia said softly. The words were not cruel. They were simply true. Another long silence settled over the room. Finally, Olivia opened another folder. "I reviewed the documents involving your property." Samuel looked up. "The investor isn't trying to help you." "He isn't?" "No, he's buying land. That's about to triple in value. Because of a government infrastructure project." Grace's eyes widened. "So we've been deceived?" "Yes." Olivia pressed a button on her desk. Within seconds, the company's legal director entered with several documents. "We've already filed an injunction to stop the sale," Olivia explained. "You'll have time to make a proper decision." Samuel couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You've already done all this?" "I solve problems," Olivia replied with a faint smile. "That's what my team hired me to do?" Grace began crying openly. "We don't deserve this." "No," Olivia admitted. "Perhaps not." The honesty surprised them both. But forgiveness isn't about deciding who deserves another chance. It's about deciding whether bitterness deserves another year of your life. Samuel slowly stood. "I'm proud of you," Olivia smiled sadly. "I spent 25 years wishing I could hear those words." He lowered his head. "And now that I've finally said them, I don't need them anymore." The sentence wasn't meant to punish him. It simply reflected how much she had grown. Months later, Samuel and Grace rebuilt their lives with honest work and careful financial planning. Their relationship with Olivia wasn't instantly restored. Trust returned slowly, through conversations, shared meals, and years of consistent effort. Some scars never disappear completely, But they no longer controlled the future. The brass key Olivia's grandmother had given her remained on her desk every day. Whenever young employees doubted themselves, she would hand them the key and tell its story. "Someone once tried to burn my dreams," she'd say. "They succeeded only in lighting the path I would eventually follow." And every person who left her office carried the same lesson. The people who underestimate you may one day stand before the life you built. When that moment comes, your greatest victory won't be proving them wrong. It will be proving that pain never had the final word. If this story made you reflect on your own journey, thank you for reading. Sometimes the strongest success isn't becoming powerful. It's choosing what kind of person you'll be once you are.